Hello, my beautiful friends. So, I'm actually recording my practice of my Robert Burns Immortal Memory speech, and I will post it after the Burns Banquet tonight, so that those of you who are interested in Rabbie Burns can experience it. So, uh, there are, for the past 223 years, Burns Banquets, Burns Suppers all over the world. No other poet in any language has an annual dinner. Even Shakespeare, Chaucer, none of them have an annual dinner that is as followed as the Burns as Robert Burns. And at the suppers and banquets, there's pretty much most of them have the same sort of components, although there's obviously flexibility. But there's a toast to the haggis. That's a poem by Robert Burns. Auld Lang Syne, which you sing at New Year's, that's played at the end usually. That's a poem by Robert Burns. And there's a toast from the lads to the lassies. A piper pipes in the haggis. There are things that happen at these events, and one of them is a speech, hopefully short if you have a good speaker. I've been to some where the person has been long-winded, and since I'm the speaker, we're not going to be long-winded. We're going to keep it under 10 minutes. So I want to practice. I practice always in front of a mirror, or I practice on video so I can see what I'm doing. And so I'm going to record it so that I can share it with you. So you have to imagine that you are in a big room with beautiful food and just everybody's dressed in all of their Scottish finery. It is the one time of year where I don't wear a kilt because a kilt is for men. I'm not playing bagpipes, so I am actually dressed more traditionally. Sometimes women will wear a hostess skirt, which is a Scottish skirt. They'll wear, I wear a shawl in my family colors, and I belong to a few different clans, so I always go with Armstrong for this particular event because that is my biggest clan that I have DNA, like actual DNA evidence for. I usually wear Clan Young, but Clan Armstrong is what I will wear tonight. So imagine the room, and imagine that you're slightly drunk because the bar's been open for an hour and a half, and we've had a good meal, and so now we're getting to the part where we're going to dance and we're going to have fun, and there's going to be music and everything. So the Immortal Memory, the function of it is to remember some aspect of the life and work of Robert Burns. So. I've set the stage. You're all in character. You're all in position. And here we go. Greetings, everyone, and a thank you for allowing me to share again Rabbie Burns's Immortal Memory. It is always an absolute honor and privilege and a blessing to remember Scotland's finest poet. So, picture this. 9 souls in a tavern, 5 years after their friend's passing. Grief still lingers, but it's eclipsed by a spark of warmth and a shared memory. They're all like, oh, we miss our buddy. I wish Rabbie was here. He was such a great guy. Remember the time he did this? Remember the time he did that? And one of the guys says, we should have a dinner for Rabbie. And a chorus of laughter and cheers erupt. And that, my friends, is the beginning of our story. A testament to a man so vibrant, so loved, that even death couldn't dim his memory. Tonight, 223 years later, we carry that same torch, gathered here in this small corner of the world to sing his praises and weave our own verse into the tapestry of his legacy. 50 years ago, a group of local people decided that we should honor this man. And for 50 years, groups of people have come together to plan and host the finest of evenings. We've been blessed by the leadership and service of people like Jan and Betty, Fred and Colleen, but all of us here have played some part in honoring the Burns legacy. If you've ever been to a Burns banquet or a supper before, raise your hand. If you've ever had a hand in planning a Burns supper or banquet here or somewhere else, please stand. Let's all take a moment to honor you for keeping Rabbie's spirit alive over 200 years. Thank you for keeping his legacy alive. Tonight, as I gaze around the room, I see not just faces, but stories. Stories woven with threads of shared heritage, of a love for the bard, and of the quiet pride that comes from carrying on a tradition that's older than any of us. I remember my own first Burns banquet as a wide-eyed teenager piping in the haggis with my brother Paul. I remember the toasts and the tales. It was there that I understood the true meaning of this gathering. It's not just a celebration of a poet, but a reaffirmation of the values that he held dear: community, compassion, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. It's easy to be lulled into complacency by the warmth of tradition, to mistake a brimming glass and a rousing toast for true homage. But Rabbie Burns wouldn't stand for that kind of nonsense. He called us to action, to bridge the gaps between us, to fight for justice, and to find laughter even in the darkest corners. So, as we savor this night, let us remember it's not just a celebration of the past, but it's a challenge for the present. Let each of us become a flame, carrying Rabbie's torch with renewed vigor, making our own communities, our own world, a little bit brighter and a little more just. Robert Burns, the farmer, was no ivory tower bard. He walked the muddy furrows with calloused hands. He felt the sting of the wind on his cheek, and he heard the stories whispered around him. He saw the struggles, the injustices, the poverty that gnawed at the very marrow of his neighbors. And as his quill scratched across the pages, it wasn't just verses that took form, but a plea for empathy, for understanding, and for action. Let's look at Two Twa Dogs, a really unique, simple poem about two canine companions, but within its lines, a scathing indictment of social inequality. He writes of Luath, the pampered hound of the Lord, whose coat is sleek, his tail is jimp, contrasted with the tattered, struggling Caesar that could a winter's sleep begun. In their barks we hear the voices of the rich and the poor, their joys and sorrows laid bare. Burns shows us, not with anger, but with poignant wit, the disparity between opulence and want, urging us to consider the common ground, the shared humanity that binds us all. Remember, Burns wasn't merely an observer, he was also a champion. He was a voice for the voiceless. His To a Mouse isn't just a sweet ode to a wee little critter, but a powerful manifesto for compassion. He sees the fear in the creature's eyes, the terror of a poor field worker facing the wrath of nature, and pleads, quote, "Steal thou no more corn. Thou's nae thief. I forge thee same money as sheaf. Oh, what a pity to see an honest mousie turn a thief." The lines echo with empathy, with a recognition that poverty can twist even the gentlest soul. He asks us to look beyond the label, to see the suffering behind the circumstance. But we know Burns wasn't all tears and sorrow. He saw the resilience of the human spirit, the spark of joy that thrives even in the darkest corners. Witness Tam O'Shanter, a riotous tale of witches, devils, and a tipsy farmer. Well, too much more tipsy than us here. Through Tam Smith's adventures, Burns celebrates the bawdy laughter that defies hardship, the unquenchable thirst for life that bubbles ever stronger in the face of adversity. It's a reminder that even in the midst of struggle, we must find moments of joy, of shared laughter, for it is these threads that bind us together, that light the way through the night. This, my friends, is the legacy of service that we inherit from Robert Burns. He did not merely entertain us, he challenged us to see, to feel, and to act. He was the poet of the people, the champion of the downtrodden, the friend who laughed with us in our folly and wept with us in our grief. So tonight, as we raise our glass to his memory, let us not just savor that tang of whiskey, but remember the lessons he so eloquently delivered. Let us strive to bridge the gaps, to offer compassion, to find laughter in the face of hardship. As the pipes echo and the whiskey warms us, let us remember that every gathering, this very gathering, this tapestry of tradition woven over the last 5 decades, is itself a poem in honor of Rabbie Burns. May his spirit of community, his unwavering commitment to the well-being of his fellow human, continue to bind us together for another 50 years, and 50 years more after that. Let our own voices fill the void left by his, ensuring that the world remains a little brighter and a little more just for as long as this immortal memory lives on. Thank you. Enjoy the night. That, my friends, is the Immortal Memory. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be delivering this later tonight. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.